Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host, Kevin, and I'm here with another Angry Snowboarder review, and today we're going to be talking about the Rome DOD. I rode these at Breck pretty super late season. Snow conditions basically showed it. It was pretty hot and sweaty out for the most part. So mashed potatoes, snow, sludgy, yeah, that kind of stuff. But in the shade, I was out early enough that the shade was actually still decent. It was definitely fast and kind of crusty, so you kind of had to pay attention to what was going on, and that was just because it was frozen slush at that point. So that's what I rode it in, and I rode it on my Rome Agent Alec in a 155. It is positive camber, matches up well to these bindings, and looked fantastic. With the adjustability on these bindings, you're going to start with your frame. So there are two bolts underneath the footbed, right underneath your toes. You're going to loosen those and loosen up the bolts on the bottom of the frame at the heel. And then the entire heel cup will be able to slide forward and back. And that's how you're going to be able to center your boot within the binding. Next thing is you've got your straps. They're on flip cams for the toe and the heel. And you just pop those up, get your strap where you need it to, pop it back down. The heel strap has a little bit extra feature to it. It's got this little bungee right here, so that as you're tightening that cam down, you want to make sure you get that bungee tightened down as well within that cam, and then when you lock it in place, it's going to help. Basically what that does is that bungee helps pull the strap out of place. So getting in and out of the binding, it just gets a little bit easier when that bungee's tight because it pulls that ankle strap out of the way. Your Highback forward lean is, again, standard cam. Flip it down, move that up and down to where you need it to, and lock it back in place. Your angle adjustments on your Highback, pretty standard again. You're going to loosen these bolts, rotate it however you feel like you need to, and tighten it back down. This binding does also come with two sets of footbeds. So it comes with a 2.5 degree, which is what I rode it with, and a 0 degree footbed. I actually usually prefer the 0 degree footbed. I just don't do as well with canning, especially on camber. It just tends to hurt my knees a little bit. It just tends to put too much pressure on the inside. But the 2.5 degrees isn't too much, and it's a little bit of softer foam across the whole footbed, so it's not too hard to compress through. So throughout the whole day, I didn't actually have any issues with my knees, but even still, as a personal binding, if I were to be riding these, I would probably use the 0 degree for myself. The straps on these are really solid, and I think Rome does a really good job with all of their straps. The ankle strap on this is one solid piece of kind of a high density rubberized foam, and then there is a plastic skeleton that connects your cam adjuster to your ratchet side, and that's where a lot of your power and structure comes from. And then all that foam just is designed to be comfortable and cushy and supportive for the most part. So as you're pushing forward into the strap, it does have some flex to it, but the more you push into it, the more support you get back out of it. So it has a very kind of progressive feel to it as you're really driving through it. And it has, a decent amount of flex side to side, but it's not noodly side to side, so it's got some support there as well. And then toe straps. I think Rome has done some of the best toe straps in the industry for basically forever. They've nailed toe straps for a very long time, and this sticks with that trend. It's really thick, beefy rubber. There's no stiff band on the bottom, but a stiff band on top. That top band is going to give you all that support and that lockdown that you need, and then all that little bit softer, more flexible rubber down low is going to allow that strap to conform over pretty much any boot shape out there. So that you've got a little bit flatter toe like the DC tuck knees that I ride, or something that's a lot more boxy, it's going to conform over that shape and does a really good job of locking down and staying put. One of the best things I can say about a ratchet on a snowboard binding is that I didn't think about it, and I didn't think about these. They've got a nice beefy feel to them overall. They feel well built, they feel strong. I've never had an issue with Rome ratchets in the past, pretty much ever, and I didn't really have to think about it. They climb well, they release smooth. That's it, that's ratchets. The Highback onto your Rome DOD, really the standout feature is this little cutout right here. It allows the whole thing to kind of flex a little bit, and you get just a little bit of give out of it. It's not so much that the Highback actually feels soft or really hinders the response or support of the Highback. It's just enough there that it makes everything smoother. It provides a little bit of a smoother feel to it because as you're pushing to the very top part of that Highback, it is allowed to give just a little bit. So riding over super rough terrain or hard landings on your heels, instead of that Highback really digging into your boot and pushing you forward, it allows it to give just a little bit. It really does not have that drastic effect on the stiffness or support to it. So as you're pushing into the Highback to get it to turn, to really kind of put some energy down into your board, it works well. There are these little relief cutouts up on the top edge that do provide a little bit more flex fit on the outside, a little stiffer to the inside. It just allows you to kind of get outside on your tips without that high back kind of getting in the way and pushing you back. Overall, it's a pretty basic feeling high back. It doesn't have kind of this drastic shaping to it or anything. It's got a little bit of foam to it to kind of soften up the bite a little bit. Really the big feature to talk about is that hinge that's back there. Overall, it's a high back that I really like, and it has a really nice feel to it. It's always as supportive as I need it to be and offers that little bit of kind of damping and kind of softness to it with that hinge back there. The overall flex on this is pretty dominated by the under wrap heel loop. So you have an aluminum upper frame and heel cup that starts from the heel and runs all the way to the front of the binding and wraps underneath the front of the binding. So having that raised sides on either end as you're kind of flexing laterally into the binding, that provides a ton of support to the side, and then driving forward or back into this binding, you get a lot of power into it because that aluminum drops from your heel cup straight down below your heel, and then also wraps just underneath your toe. So as you're pushing back into that, you're not just pulling up on the aluminum frame from the top of it or through a bolt, but you're actually literally pulling up on that under nylon frame from underneath the frame. So it has a lot of response to it and just feels really solid and super supportive underfoot. And that's really kind of just one of the biggest characteristics I notice of Rome bindings is they always just feel really supportive. It's the type of binding that, throughout a super long day or a long trip and you're riding, 4 or 5 days, 8 hours a day in a row, this binding is going to provide enough support to it to keep you riding and just stay comfortable that entire time. And then, full foam footbed that has a little bit of a thicker feel to it, so provides a nice smooth feel underfoot as well. The big word here with the ride feel of this binding is support. It just feels supportive. You have this nice, comfortable, but it has that progressive support to it with that ankle strap. The further you push into it, the more support it's going to give you back. It has that full aluminum under wrap heel frame to it that provides a nice responsive feel to it, so you don't feel like you're having to overdrive this binding to get it to do what you need it to do. That full foam footbed that you can get either the 0 or the 2.5 degree depending on your preference there, and then that really nice kind of smooth high back. And all that lens together, it's the type of binding that you can be in all day and it's not going to cause any problems. It's not going to cause any hot points, and it's going to feel comfortable that entire long aggressive day that you might be riding. Who is this binding for? Well, Rome will pretty much tell you that this binding is for literally anyone. And I would pretty much agree. I think this is the workhorse of the Rome line, and this is the type of binding that if you come into my shop and you say, I don't know what I want, but I need a binding that's gonna last, I'm gonna grab a DOD. It is burly, it's supportive, it's responsive, and it's really the type of binding I can put on any board and put under any rider. The Rome DOD is one of my favorite catch-all bindings. So it's the type of binding that if you have no idea what kind of riding you really want to get into, or you want one binding and one board to ride everywhere, so like, your one binding quiver binding basically, then the Rome DOD is one of my top picks for that style out there. It's just capable of just about anything, and it's super comfortable and supportive to be in all day. So definitely a top pick for me, and something that I would personally ride every single day as my go-to binding. Thanks for watching. This has been my review of the Rome DOD. Have you been riding this binding since it came out in the 17 season? It hasn't really changed since then, pretty much at all. And I still think it's as good then as it is now, and it's still a really top binding. So do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let's have a conversation about it. While you're doing that, make sure you click the subscribe button and hit the bell. Make sure you get notifications when we've got more videos coming out. If you're interested in supporting us, the best way to do that is to check out Angry Snowboarder VIP. I could tell you a little bit more about it, but we made a fancy video, so check that out instead. Thanks for watching, and come back to the next video.